What is up, everybody? I am Taylor. Welcome to my channel, and this is my, well, I guess review or spoiler-free. No, not spoiler-free. There's going to be spoilers. Spoilers. I put it in the thumbnail. I put it in the title. I'm saying it now. There's going to be a big thing across the screen. Spoilers about Thor: Love and Thunder. My thorts. Get it? Thorts. So, yeah, that's a bad joke, which is kind of like this movie. Anyway, let's get into it. Thor, directed by Taika Waititi, starring, oh, what the hell, you know all this crap already, right? You know this. If you're here, you know about the movie. It's Marvel. They have the marketing machine in place. You can't miss them. They're the villains, people. They're the villains. But, yeah, we're going to talk about Thor: Love and Thunder. This is my first time doing this kind of thing. Normally I talk about comics. This is a comic-related movie, at least, so it's in my wheelhouse, and I've seen all the other MCU flicks, and I'm a Thor fan. Generally, he's one of my favorite characters, probably not my favorite, and this movie didn't help that, but we'll get into it. We're going to start with the plot. It's a Marvel plot. It's pretty basic, such as it is. I mean, it starts with the intro where you have Gore becoming Gore, the God Butcher, for reasons, which that we'll talk about some of that too. And then you catch up with Thor, where he's been hanging out with the Guardians of the Galaxy, going on wacky adventures and meditating. And then he does some dumb Thor shit. And then he ends up going back to hang out and meet up with Val and, what's her face? The Valkyrie. And, yeah, Jane Foster. It's light. And then, yeah. The main plot. Sorry, I'm rambling. Finds out Gore's killing people, goes to confront Gore in Asgard. Gore steals kids. Then they go after Gore. Or, well, first they have to find the thing that can beat Gore, which is going to be a bunch of gods. That doesn't work because it's Marvel. And then they get the thing to beat Gore. Then they go fight Gore. They blah. Change of heart. Gore is a kid now. The end. There's not much to the basic plot. The B plot, Jane Foster's dying of cancer. Gets Mjolnir. Mjolnir turns her into Thor, but is killing her, which they don't really go into a whole lot. And spoilers! It kills her. Okay. Valkyrie, Val, whatever. I don't know, there's not much of a plot. She's president of Asgard. Still president of Asgard. No real character arc there. Yeah. That's the big plot. Is not, again, it's pretty simple. Even by Marvel standards. It follows the Marvel formula, right? You have the hero in the beginning. Meets the bad guy, loses to the bad guy, finds the thing to beat the bad guy, which it's either a thing or inner strength or some shit. Confronts the bad guy at the end, wins. That's it. That's every Marvel movie ever, pretty much. Even Infinity War and Endgame, you put those two together, that's the plot. It's basic. I don't have a problem with that. It's a formula. It's worked for Marvel. Yay! And then we're going to talk about the characters, and here's where I start getting into real issues with the movie. I'll start with the good. I like Gore. I thought, what's his face? What's his nuts? American Psycho. I'm trying to goddamn blank on it. Batman. Yeah, him. Them. That guy. Oh boy. What the hell is his name? Christian Bale. That's it. That's the guy. Oh, this is a winning combo. This is why you're here, people, for this kind of great content where I have brain farts through the entire thing. He was great. Underutilized. When he was on the scene, in the movie, he chewed up the scenery. He was overacted a bit. Christian bailed the hell out of it. He was an effective villain when he was on there. He was menacing. He was terrifying. I didn't mind the makeup on him, although that's not really the characterization part of it all. But I thought Christian Bale was pretty decent. Korg, which is Taika Waititi's character, fucking annoying. They should have killed him. They didn't. And then he's a talking head, which is even more annoying. They should have just killed him off. He was not bad in Ragnarok. In this movie, he was just comic relief and stupid and annoying and didn't really work. Valkyrie Val, again, nothing much to her. In Ragnarok, she at least had a bit of an arc and a bit of a story thing. Here, there's really nothing to talk about with her. Zeus, who is the god that Thor meets and ends up killing-ish, was goddamn awful. And I get why. They wanted to paint the gods in a bad light, and so Gore would have a reason to be evil. Fine. But they painted every god with his blanket, and they painted Zeus as just a character of all the gods. And you know, even Odin, who was back in a pain in the ass back in the earlier movies, was still much more godly than Zeus. Zeus is just a ridiculous joke. Didn't care for that character. But that pales in comparison to how much I hated Thor in this movie. Um, and part of this has to do with consistency. Like, this movie did not feel like the same Thor as in the previous three. He is treated as becoming much more idiotic, and he's a buffoon in this film, which I get you kind of wanted some of that, but like he's already done that in previous movies. He in the first Thor movie, he started off as an arrogant asshole that didn't care about the planet and didn't care about humans and thought they were ants, and then he had his arc there where he learned and fell in love with Jane Foster, blah 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 blah. Right? But this movie, he's just a buffoon, and like he starts with destroying this big temple on when he's hanging out with the Guardians. He destroys a roof in Asgard. He doesn't really seem to give a shit about the kids that are captured at first, and it's just kind of like, do. He's an airheaded meatball. And he's already been through that. He should have had some growth here. And I thought, okay, well, I get it. They're presenting Thor as an idiot, so he'll have a growth arc again in this movie. They've done it before, but it's fine. He'll learn to realize that gods kind of are awful, and he'll become better. He kind of does, but it doesn't really work. It's like baby step improvements, and he's still it didn't feel consistent with the previous movies. Even Ragnarok, which is another like Waititi movie, it feels like he's just gotten more and more idiotic every film. I did like Jane Foster in this movie. I thought it finally gave her something to do. She's been kind of absent, obviously. And like her bout with cancer and the way Natalie Portman played her, I thought was pretty decent. I don't normally always love Natalie, but I liked her in this movie. She didn't have a ton to really work with, but what she did have, I thought she did well. The cancer bit was fine. Her arc was fine. She was a little jokey that with some of the stuff, but that we'll get into that. But yeah, those are the basic characters. And yeah, the next bit is the humor, which, look, I transitioned from the jokey bits to the humor because I'm a pro, people. Hakuna Matata, the circle of life and humor. It didn't work for me, this movie. It felt jokey in the wrong places. Like serious moments, they would interject a joke, and it just felt like an awkward guy cracking wise at a funeral, like a lot of the time, and it didn't really work. When they're meeting the gods, they all go to the island of Immortus, or whatever the hell that stupid name is. There's Bao, the god of muffins or buns. It's just dumb. And then like I touched on the Zeus thing, and he was like cracking wise and being a I said cracking wise. That's my new phrase for this movie. I'm like an 80-year-old man, cracking wise. And there was bits that were funny, but there were a lot of bits that really didn't work. Like when Thor is talking to trying to have this mental telepathy thing, which is a weird thing he can do, where he's talking to Heimdall's son, Axel, who apparently wants to be Axl Rose because the whole movie is really a love letter to Sweet Child of Mine, which, whatever, fine, I don't care. It was a great album. Appetite for Destruction, Guns N' Roses, no problem with that. But he's had this telepathic moment with these trapped, scared kids, and Valkyrie's rubbing Thor's nose with his hair, and he keeps swatting at his face. I'm like, what in the goddamn hell is this? It's not funny. It's not appropriate. And it's just weird and out of place and out of touch with how I think these characters really would have acted. I get it's a fantasy film. I get it's not real. I get comics aren't real. I'm aware. I don't live in a fantasy land. But it just didn't feel right. And then, yeah, like the weird love triangle with Mjolnir and Stormbreaker, where they're suddenly characters, and he has to give Stormbreaker a beer and scratch his chin. What in the? No. No. It didn't land. A lot of the humor was missed for me, and like I said, I really liked Ragnarok. I liked the humor in that movie. I thought it had a nice balance of humor and action. Here, it leaned very heavy into the humor aspect of it, and it just. Nah. Words fail me, people. Words fail me. The end scenes, the end credit scenes, okay, fine. Zeus isn't really dead, so there's no consequences to Thor's action of killing him in the movie, except for he's got Zeus mad at him, which Zeus is already kind of mad at him, a douchebag, so blah, 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 blah. It does introduce Hercules, played by What's-His-Nuts from Ted Lasso, who looked a little skinny to be Hercules, really, even in the 2-second thing. I was like, all right, that's a tiny little Hercules, but whatever, he could buff up. If Chris Hemsworth can turn into the beefy man butt we saw in the movie, then Brett, whatever his actor's name is, can do that. I think he's not a bad choice for the Hercules' character, I think, will be decent, but it was just whatever. And then, yeah, you get Jane Foster at the gates of Valhalla talking to Heimdall, where she's out the option to go inside and become, whatever, undead or dead or zombie or space hero or in heaven or whatever the hell Valhalla actually is in the MCU. And then they cut because she's probably not. They're leaving the door open to her becoming a Valkyrie or whatever and coming back because it's Marvel. And yeah, I did like some of the movie. I know I've been bashing on a lot of it, but I like the visuals overall. I thought the action scenes were pretty great. I thought the dark planet and stuff, and I thought the fact that there was no light in the shadow realm, except for when the powers were really activating. I thought that was cool. I thought the action sequences were pretty well done, although the monsters were mindless and stupid and shadowy monsters, and they were not very great. But and I liked the makeup on Gore. I know he's not comic book accurate, but I don't give a shit. I thought that was well done. I liked that. I liked Gore as the villain. I just thought that he was kind of wasted. He was a one and done villain that probably deserved more. The comics, I know it's not the comics, but in the comics, it was a much more serious arc, and they set Gore up as an ultimate badass. In this movie, he didn't have a chance to be. They didn't really show him killing any gods other than the first douchey little god, which, yeah, set the tone badly for the entire movie because that first god was just a dipshit. And it didn't, I'm like, oh, that's what we're in for. And I thought we'd get better. I was like, oh, okay, we're in for this kind of like weird ass. Oh, gods are just do humor nonsense, don't care. And I'm like, oh, it'll get better. It didn't. But yeah, Gore deserved better. I think the movie would have been better served if it were split into two things. Either a Jane Foster movie or miniseries. If you don't think she can handle her own movie, I think she probably would have been fine at it. Where you deal with her bout with cancer, treat it a little more seriously. Have her find the Mjolnir, have her hit the redemptive arc, have her die, but give her a proper arc to do it with and an amount of time that really necessary to flesh that out and have it be an actual story. Have her go off on the adventures. Have her realize, oh, eventually that Mjolnir's killing her. Don't treat it as such a joke. And then have that be one thing. And then have the Gore the God Butcher movie be a separate thing. Show Gore being a badass. Show his fall from grace. Show, why he hates all the gods. And really get into it. And then show his brutality more. Sure, he kidnapped some kids, but he just put them in a cage that is all teethy and didn't really do much. He had a few badass moments in there where he, killed a teddy bear or whatever the hell he did, and the weird thing he conjured and killed. Fine, it was all right, but really make him this menacing thing that he could be. Set it up for the next level. Set up Null. Set up the Gore the God Butcher into Null, which you probably can't do because Spider-Man and Venom and Sony owns all that shit. But at least let Gore be this fucking real villain. As it is, he's just kind of a one and done pastiche of a character where the sword might have turned to evil, but yeah, or he was already evil inside and the gods, whatever. But give him the meat and show why the gods are really awful. Other than just they sit around and joke and hang out and wait for Zeus to throw lightning bolts around. That's partying. That's not really horrible. They're just douchey frat bros. But show that the gods are bad. Show him going around and killing these guys instead of just showing the aftermath of the dead gods and really get sink your teeth into it. If they would have done that and made it 2 movies, I think it would have been better. It would have been much, much better. As it was, it's a fluffy movie. I put it on my Facebook. I'm like, it's like a pancake. It's light and fluffy and airy. I think it's actually more like a Krispy Kreme donut. I mean, it's sugary, it's sweet, and there's really nothing to it, at all, when you sit and think about it. One of my friends I went and saw this, well, it was better than Doctor Strange 2. I don't think so. I think Doctor Strange 2 at least had some stuff to it. I mean, Doctor Strange is another kind of a mess of a movie, but there's at least more to it. This one, there's really nothing to grab onto and sink your teeth into at all. It was just, yes, I know Love and Thunder, it's supposed to be an 80s rom-com, but even 80s rom-coms, when done well, have a little bit more to them than this movie. And sure, there's some stuff that changes. Thor is now the dad to Gore's kid, who's a superhero as well, or evil villain, or has powers, which Gore didn't really have. But I don't know why did Eternity give Thor? Did Eternity give Thor the power? I don't know why. How does Gore's kid have all these powers? I'm not sure. Also, how the hell did Gore know about Stormbreaker? Like, was he just watching all the events at Endgame from afar? Like, he needed a Stormbreaker, the big MacGuffin. He needed that item to open the gates to eternity, talk to eternity. It's a stupid Indiana Jones thing. You need this to get to this to find this, and then you open the Ark of the Covenant, they all die. Whatever. It's not that, but it's pretty close. Uh, there's logical things that in this movie that just, like, if you sit and think about it, it all falls apart. It's a badly built house of cards. On the whole, I know I was harsh in this, and this is my first time doing one of these movie reviews. Generally, I tend to be more positive about movies because it's a passive experience for me. I sit, I watch, I try to enjoy. It's not like reading a comic book where you actively read and you flip the pages and you're engaged and you like have control over the narrative and the pacing a little bit, at least when you're reading it, versus watching it. Watching it, you're really at the mercy of everything in front of you. And I thought I'd just give this a whirl because the more I thought about this movie, the more it kind of bugged me, which is too bad because I really, really did like Thor Ragnarok. I would probably give Thor Ragnarok like a 9 out of 10. I thought it was one of the better Marvel movies. I thought it was fantastic. Thor Love and Thunder? Yeah, you could have probably guessed it from if you know me and have watched any of my shit before or whatever. But it's getting a 6.0. It's fine. That's all I've got. Let me know if you want me to do more of this kind of stuff. I can go talk about movies and stuff. I'll probably go see them, but this one cost me $17 at 4 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. It's getting pricey to go see this. That's like 4 issues of Turok #1, people. That's 4 issues I could have afforded, or probably more like 14 or dollar books plus tax. That's all I've got. Yeah. Have you seen the movie? What did you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Am I way off base? I don't really care, but like, let me know like if you enjoyed it more than I did. I hope so, because I don't know. I think that Marvel has just kind of lost its way. They're the villains. They just started churning out product, and it used to be like a Marvel movie was an exciting thing, just kind of rare, and then Marvel TV and COVID, all that stuff hit. And now we're just getting slammed with these movies, and they're like. They really are just racing to get them out, it feels like. And they're just not really concerned. Like, oh, people will watch it because it exists. That's bugging me. I want a better product than that. I want to enjoy these movies. I really like to enjoy things. But, I don't know. I guess it's fine. Yeah, so we'll stick with it. 6.0. That's about it. Don't be a dick, even if you're a buffoonish airhead that just crashes through buildings and opens the Bifrost wherever the fuck you want to and does not care about humanity. See ya!